Hello, visionaries, and welcome to another episode and week of Creating the Vision. I have today with me one of the coolest people. She is a marriage coach, wife, and mom of three. She helps moms and parents simplify communication in their marriage so they can feel seen and heard and be able to work together as a team to resolve conflict so they spend less time arguing and more time actually enjoying their relationship as they navigate parenthood. I think that's something we all can benefit from. She believes that marriage isn't hard, it just has hard moments. And once you have the skills to handle relationship challenges, this can be true for anyone. Through her podcast, courses, and coaching programs, which we are going to be discussing today, she helps parents learn the essential skills to have a happy and healthy marriage they can feel proud to model to their kids. I am so excited to introduce this week's guest, Michelle Purta. We actually met through a mutual contact and friend. And a couple weeks ago, I was on her podcast. Now she's coming on mine. And the cool dynamic of what we both do is really helping people create that vision. But I think when it comes to couples, oh my goodness, Michelle, one, welcome. And then two, tell us the number one conversation couples need to have but aren't having.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation because, after my own experiences, as well as helping my clients through their very, very common marriage challenges, I noticed that all of them were not having this one conversation that my husband and I happened to have before getting married. Okay. And from this conversation that we've been able to have, I truly feel like it has minimized the arguments. It's created a really strong sense of like trust and alignment with each other. So we feel like we're on the same page. We're working together towards the same goals. And I really feel like, why aren't more couples having this conversation? Because all these like surface level things like, oh, why did you do that? Or why aren't you doing this? And how, all these things don't have to even be a thing in your marriage if you have this one conversation. And it is all about creating a family vision. So like when I found out what you did, I was like, oh my gosh, Maria, like we have to talk about this because this is game changing for all marriages.
Yes. I agree. I agree. It is something that we focus on as a family. I know you and I talked, we vision board as a family, but we set goals as a family, we set goals individually, but specifically as a couple, like we had to model that behavior before we started having a family. We had to identify what our goals were as individually as Maria, individually as Dan, my husband, and then together what we wanted to accomplish. And honestly, which we've talked about this, I know you and I have just offline talked about this. My assumption has always been like, well, everyone must do this, but they don't, right?
Nope. It's sad, but
It
that's why we're
is.
here, right? We're going to help
Yes.
change that.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you have a program and a course
Mhm.
that walks couples through this. What is throughout this course, I guess, what is the kind of the overarching theme, the advice that you're giving? Like, how do couples kind of start to even have this conversation if it's something that maybe they're uncomfortable about? Because I often think back to like my own parents' relationship and maybe the things they did or didn't talk about. So if it wasn't something that maybe people grew up with, then how do they know how to instill this in their own relationship?
Yeah. So the incredible thing about creating a family vision is that you're not sitting here complaining about the things that you don't like. Instead, you're talking about what it is that you want. So you're not criticizing your partner in the process. You're just saying, hey, this is what I've always seen and wanted for my life as an individual. This is how I wanted my life to look like as a family. This is what I wanted to look like. How about you? Like, how do you see your individual life playing into the larger scale or vision of things like with our family, with our marriage? And then you kind of just like a Venn diagram, right? You've got those
Mhm.
circles, and then there's that intersection. Where do we align here? And where are the differences? And are these differences really huge? Can we find a compromise? Can we figure out a new way? And it kind of brings about a really nice conversation to kind of challenge the way you both grew up, because we all grow up differently, right? We all come from different family cultures. And so understanding that each family, as new ones are created, right? Like as soon as you get married, you're now a new family. You get to create, okay, how does our family work? What's the culture that we're creating? What's the vision that we're working towards? And when you can establish that and get on the same page with that, right? It doesn't have to be like every single thing, but the core things are important. Then all the decisions that come up, the little ones, you can just like, okay, what did we say we wanted? Does it help us get closer to that? Or does it get farther away from that? And then it becomes just a simple decision. Okay, it's not. Is it worth it? Are we okay kind of just like veering off course a little bit? Do we need to make some tweaks to our vision? Like as we learn about ourselves through life and just experiences? Or, okay, that's a hard no. And then you realign yourself. It just like simplifies life, relationships so much better and makes life easier. And I'm just so grateful that we had this conversation, and it like blows my mind, just like you, right? That people aren't doing this. And even though you're already married, you already have kids, it's not too late, right? You can still be like, okay, let's hit the timeout. Let's hit pause and take some time to figure out, okay, what are we actually working towards? And it's almost like how we all have like images in our mind of how life is supposed to be, right? As women, sometimes we kind of grow up as girls like, oh, we have this fairy tale like picture in our mind of how things will work.
Yep.
But when we don't actually take the time to paint that picture out, not literally, unless you're an artist, right? I'm not one. I like do stick figures and they suck.
Same. I can't even draw a stick figure.
Yeah, no. Like ask me to play telestrations and it's like the funniest thing. No one knows what I'm drawing. Anyway. You have to have some kind of way to express or share what that vision is. Otherwise, you're going to keep bumping heads with each other because you're not actually having that critical conversation of, hey, what is it that you actually want? What's driving all of these like moments where you're frustrated or disappointed or things that you're really excited by, right? If you can have that clarity with each other, it's like, okay, all the cards are on the table. Now we know what we're working with, and nothing should really be a surprise except for, life circumstances that you can't foresee happening. But in your relationship, if you can do that, it's incredible, really.
The communication piece is huge. And just piggybacking off of what you had talked about with couples who maybe didn't do this at the beginning. Yeah. No matter whether you're 80 or, 8 or 80, you can start today. You can start now. Just because you haven't done it in the past doesn't mean you can't start. I mean, I share that in workshops that I do often, that sometimes I don't know if it's that we feel this pressure from society or we make these assumptions or where we kind of get this thought or this energy comes from. But often, especially women, we reach a certain point in our life and we just think, you know what, it's probably too late for me. So I'm going to continue just doing what I'm doing and oh well. But man, we get one life. Like we got one life at this. And especially if I'm spending it with someone like in the confines of a home and I'm raising kids with them, I want to know exactly what they're working towards achieving. One, because I want to be their hype partner. Like I want to be the person that pumps them up. And you and I've talked about this. I think I shared with you that my husband is my accountability partner because he delivers that like tough love that even though I'm like, ugh, I really don't like you right now, but I know you're right. Thank you. I know you're telling me that because you love me, but it works for us. And actually that's what I need. I really need that. But I've had clients say that would completely end in divorce for them. Like they would just not be able to, that would never work for them. It would continue to just make the situation rockier, more tense, more frustrating, and almost feeling like someone's always kind of like big brother, like looking, watching you. And I just reframe that as like, well, but we're together, we're around each other. He's the person I'm around the most. And I know I need him to keep me accountable because I don't know too many of my friends who are going to drive over to my house at 5:00 in the morning to wake me up, to get me out of bed to do a workout. But he will.
Yeah. But the important thing is that you asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
right? and
Ooh,
and I think
that's
it's
a good
important
point.
to like honor that we're all different.
Mm-hmm.
So even like your husband's different than your past, exes. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think if you're asking for it, then that's the culture that you're setting in your relationship, and that's totally fine. It doesn't have to work for anyone else. And I think that's the biggest point in this vision exercise, is that it doesn't have to look like anyone else's, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
give yourself permission to challenge status quo, to challenge how you grew up, and think, oh, my marriage doesn't have to look like my parents. Oh, okay. It doesn't have to look like your parents either. Okay. Well, what do we want ours to look like then? Right? I feel like a lot of people just kind of put themselves unintentionally into a box, and they're like, oh, well, society says, or my friends have this
Right.
kind of marriage. So, like, it has to, like, no, it doesn't. As long as it works for you guys as a family, that's all that matters. Who
Mm-hmm.
cares?
I agree. And I think my question, or what kind of immediately comes to mind, is just a couple of things like throughout those conversations. How do you even start that conversation? Because I mean, I've been with my husband for so long, since I was 17. So before we even were thinking about marriage or anything like that, but we kind of always knew. I mean, from the moment I saw him, I knew I was going to marry him. Not that like the second question I asked him was, how many kids do you want to have? But we knew we had dated for 5.5 years before we got married. So like we knew we wanted to have kids. We knew like it was a natural progression over our dating life that led us to a lot of these types of vision goal setting for our family and our future family. But like, how do you even get started? Like, what happens when someone says, but I want, like, I like the way that my parents' marriage was, but then you have a partner maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not gonna be for me.
Yeah, so that's a little challenging. I would still be open-minded, because you don't, when someone says something broad like that, you have no idea what exactly they mean, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they want it to be like 100% like copy paste, right? It could mean that they're thinking of like the better sides of their parents' marriage. And maybe they don't notice the unhealthy sides because it's just become what's normal for them.
Mhm.
And so try your best to have a poker face. Like, try not to cringe, because that could be really offensive and create some kind of like argument that you don't want to even get into. So you could ask, like, okay, well, what about their relationship do you like? What do you admire about their relationship that you want in our relationship? And kind of just drill down to specifics, so that you don't like cast judgment before you even know exactly what he's saying. So having that curiosity so that you can have clarity is really, really key in this kind of big conversation, right? It's really easy to be like, oh shit, like,
Mhm.
I don't want that. And then all of a sudden you're like, great, who did I marry? This is my life. Like, we're doomed, right? So try not to jump to conclusions before you get that clarity. Ask questions, and even ask, like, okay, well, what about that do you like? What part of that? How would that make you feel if we did that? Okay, well, this is how these are my concerns about that. Like, trying to, I kind of like compare marriage a lot to like business, right? Like, you wouldn't tell a coworker or like your manager like everything that you're feeling and thinking, right? You kind of like pause and process how you feel, and deliver it tactfully. Okay, that's going to save your communication so much, because coming from someone like me, I did not like, I sucked at communication before learning all, like, I learned the hard way, and I really had to like do personal work to become who I am today and be able to show up as the partner I am today for my marriage. And as someone who like is very naturally reactive, right? Like, I learned that from my parents. I really had to learn to slow down, and the gift that it is to
Mm.
actually give myself space, because I believe that if I address it right now, that shows I care. But really, it's like
Wow.
I'm throwing a a bomb into our relationship, and it's like, let's see how big this explodes. And I don't want to do
That
that.
right. Gosh, there's so many parallels, I feel like, to my growth and development in communication as well, because I have tended at times in our marriage, I think, to not necessarily like withhold things, but to do it as to just move things along, like just
Mm-hmm.
not share so that it doesn't take up time and space and energy and effort. And well, wait, you mean you feel that way? Like, oh, seriously, I just was like, thinking it. So I'll hold it in. The problem is, and my middle child is like this, we're very similar in that we will harbor then all of those feelings and little bite-sized communication pieces that we didn't share in the moment or that we let fester, and then it all comes bubbling up and out, and then it all hits at once. And
Mm-hmm.
then my poor husband is dealt with, holy shit.
What the hell just
Like you
happened?
just, yes, you just dropped everything on me from like 4 months ago. Like, how far back does this go? And how long do I
Yep.
need to clear my schedule for? Because you just gave me so much. I feel like I'm doing it because it's almost like I don't want to burden him with it in the moment. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in the moment. It's just best to be like, you know what? I'll get over it. I'm going to like harbor those feelings for like a minute, but then I'm going to get over it. But the thing is that the mind doesn't work that way. It starts to
No.
collect all of that until we can't
Yeah.
take it anymore and there's no more space left, and then we have to let it out. So, like I said, I've been working on that actively for a
Yeah.
while now, and I'm getting much better at it. I think the older that I get, I just have less. And honestly, the more that I build out my business and I have so much on my plate with that, I almost have to, it's forced me to address those
Mm-hmm.
little things that are bothering me, just not necessarily in the moment in a reactive state, but just address it to be like, hey, I really need to talk to you about this because
Yes.
I've been meaning to. And instead of letting it build and fester and grow until I blow up or I shut down or any emotion after that, let me just get it out there so that
Yes.
you and I can work through it.
You know what that kind of reminds me of is, when you try and teach your kids, hey, when you play with something, put it away before you play with something new. And then what
Mm-hmm.
happens? They
They
don't.
don't.
Like, if you're not
Yep.
consistent about
Mm-hmm.
like getting on them to create that habit,
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is you can no longer walk through living room, and then you lose your shit and you're like, okay, nobody can
Hey.
play until this living room is cleaned up. And then what happens?
Yep.
They get really overwhelmed because there's so
Yep.
much. But if it was just that one thing and we stuck by it to support them through building that habit, it wouldn't be so overwhelming because it's just like, oh, it's just Candyland, okay. Versus, oh, it's Candyland and these monster trucks and these Legos and da 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 da. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh
And
man,
the
shut
kinetic
down. I don't
sand
want
and
to do
all.
it. Oh
Yes.
my God,
Yes.
yes. All of it, right?
All of it.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like the same thing. We think we are helping them, but really we are setting them up for failure. And
Mm-hmm.
it eats at us inside too. It's not fair for anyone, really.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly, and really, this parlays too in just our own individual goals and dreams as a
Mm-hmm.
couple. Because to your point, if we're holding those in and not sharing what we want to achieve with ourselves and with our partner, then it just continues to culminate into a lack of, you start withdrawing, you start holding things in. And so that is one piece that I've been always been pretty vocal about, is are the goals that I'm working on, but that's because I'm aligned in that way. Feelings are something that I've had to manage and work on expressing those a little bit more freely. I am always like, I love you. You're amazing. Like, I adore
Mm-hmm.
you. I cherish you. Like, those come easy to me. It's the harder emotions when I maybe feel hurt or feel ignored or feel like he's just busy and I want time because my love language is quality
The
time.
vulnerability.
Hmm. Those are the emotions
Yes.
that I have time. I have a hard time placing and addressing in a timely manner. And those are the ones typically that then build up.
Yeah, it's tough to be vulnerable if you're not used to it, if it wasn't welcomed when you grew up. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because even though I didn't, like, I rarely heard I love you, I definitely didn't have a safe space to express my emotions if they were uncomfortable to anyone else, right? It was very much like, you were a pageant girl, like, smile, everything's great, right? But if I was frustrated or angry, annoyed, any kind of attitude, anything uncomfortable, it was like, get it together, like don't do
Mm-hmm.
that. And of course, my parents did their best. They probably didn't have the space for that either. Like no one had time for that. But I didn't want that to be true for my kids. And so I've had to do a lot of work on myself because, it starts with us. We're the parents. We
Mm-hmm.
set the tone, we set the stage for them to thrive in. And so I really had to get comfortable with expressing my emotions, even though I had no idea how. I didn't even know how I felt. I just knew I didn't like it. Right. And in order for me to create a safe space for them to feel like they can express themselves, I had to get comfortable with my emotions and being able to express them to my husband and kind of like work through the challenge of being vulnerable because it is so raw. It's almost like I want you to see me, but also I don't want to have to do the work for you to see me because then I feel really exposed and I don't know if I'm worthy of someone supporting or what if you
Mm-hmm.
react in a way that is going to end up feeling more painful than me just holding on to
Mm-hmm.
the disappointment and the resentment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with practice, like it does get easier, so much easier. And the conversations with your spouse get deeper. And you can tell just from how your kids communicate with you, like how they're able to verbalize and articulate how they feel, what they want. And you can sit there and be a safe space for their like explosive, big feelings and be like, wow, I'm really changing the landscape of the future generations here because I'm not trying to shush them or tell them it's okay and, doing anything I can to expedite them getting
Mm-hmm.
back to like a neutral place, right? I'm really just like allowing them to sit in their feelings and be with it.
And I don't think that's something when I say we, our generation, I think generationally, we are the ones changing a lot of that for our
Yeah.
children. Because I talked to too many people my age and older that there wasn't space for that. And it's not that, and I don't fault. And listen, I always could share with my mom. Like my mom and I are super close. We share everything. We disagree with each other all the time, but like, I mean, she's my gal. She's my person. But I don't know if they were equipped with that. Like
Yeah.
we know so much more about parenting and about having those open conversations. And listen, I'm sure that in 20 years, when my daughter has a podcast and talks about her crazy life growing up, and my mom always made me make these vision boards and talk about my goals and was constantly pushing me to talk about my goals. And like, I just want to live my life. So I'm sure that there's some type of damage that I'm imparting on them. But I just say that, as we get older, we get to make those decisions for ourselves how we
Yes.
want to manage our lives. Just because things happened to us when we were younger doesn't mean we have to reciprocate those. And we really can be the change that we want to see in our relationships, in our friendships, and everything, even though we didn't have the same given to us. We actually can
Yes.
make it better. And that's really so much in that conversation of creating the vision for your life is that's what is so empowering because you get the ability to decide. You
Mm-hmm.
control so much more than you give yourself credit for. You can control your attitude, your perspective, your approach. You can control your thoughts, the way you think about things, your abilities, your dislikes, your likes. And what something I keep kind of hearing you say too is that we really need to get to know ourselves so that we can be the best version of ourselves for other people because it's really hard to then share a vision collectively if I don't even know what I'm working for individually.
Yeah, 100%. And a big part of that is actually getting to know yourself so well that you're willing to take ownership of the gaps, right? Your own personal gaps. I think it's easy to look outwards
Mm,
and be like, oh,
yes.
you're not feeling this, you're not measuring up to this. But how many of us are actually looking in the mirror and be like, okay, where are my gaps? Right? Like for me, it was literally emotional intelligence and communication and taking personal responsibility for how I felt. And one of my favorite quotes, which I will probably butcher, that I have come across is like, hey, you may not be responsible for how you ended up how you are now, but you
Mhm.
are definitely responsible for who you become. So if you can just acknowledge, yeah, I suck at communication. Yeah, I suck with my emotions. Cool. There are so many resources, myself included, for you to change that. And it can be an empowering thing rather than a woe is me. I wasn't taught this growing up, so my life is screwed. No. Like, okay, you weren't taught this. Sorry. I wish it was different for you. And what are you going to do about it?
And YouTube and Google
Right?
and all of the search engines are phenomenal resources. There are therapists. Yes, I think the whole world needs a therapist right now, but with everything going on. but
Yes.
but especially in relationships, it is not ever that sign of just because you go to therapy doesn't mean your relationship is falling apart and it's deteriorating. I actually think that honestly, I think that more like churches and more, more marriage, counselors should actually enter the picture before and I mean, you might have an opinion one way or another. I'm sure you want to be there from like day one as it's like
Yeah.
getting set up so that we actually can build a stronger foundation for our lives. Because no, I firmly, I strongly believe we have someone who is like very in love with their husband, but has definitely weathered the storm, the ups and downs, and like the times when we weren't sure we were going to make it. And we're like, we're at we're at a crossroads. What are we going to do?
Mm.
I believe so strongly that if we can set ourselves up for those types of conversations or tools or resources so we know who to lean on so that it doesn't drag out, so that we can get over that period. Because I firmly believe no one enters marriage saying, well, if this one doesn't work out, like, got a few more, opportunities in my life to make it
Yeah, no.
happen. I think we always, all of us walk down that aisle or, as men, we wait at the end of the aisle for our other, our partner or spouse, whatever, whoever's waiting for you at the end. That's the happiest day of your life. Like you see everything out before you. It's like the sky's the limit and you're doing things
Hmm.
together. You're doing life together. So, I actually want to pivot, if you don't mind, because that kind of leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
What happens? And I say this, I don't want to tie this so loosely to I don't want to like denigrate the content, but at the same time, like I talk often in goal setting about how your mind can change and like what might be
Hmm.
a goal of yours today. Well, you could exhaust all options and realize, well, this goal just isn't working for me. So I need to like,
Yeah.
cut and run, figure out. But I'm going to replace it with another goal.
Yes.
In marriage, though, how does that work when you have a changed mind or even a changed heart? And maybe, and not necessarily that about each other, because I don't want it to be necessarily like we get into like the divorce conversation, but I mean, I'm sure you can shed some light on that too. But like when it comes to those goals and dreams that you have as a couple, and then someone says, I don't want to hike all 50 whatever national parks or
Hmm.
whatever. I don't want to do that anymore. I thought I did 10 years ago, but I've grown as a person
Yeah.
and I don't even like nature. What happens then? I will never
Such-
hike parks. I don't even know where that came
oh,
from,
I
but
love hiking, so
there
that
you go.
works for me.
See,
I
that works
actually
for
do
you.
want to visit all the national parks eventually. Yeah, I mean, we get to change our minds. That's the beauty of being human, right? We're not stuck living a certain way. But if your goals change, let it. Right? Like you are a dynamic person. The whole purpose of life isn't to box yourself in. So it can change. It is like a work in progress always. This is not like, okay, we're going to write this document and it is going to be laminated and it can't be touched and it can't be ever updated. Like that's not the point. The point is to have a North Star to work towards. And if that North Star needs to pivot, pivot, right?
Yeah.
And if it affects your marriage, well, you have to decide, is the marriage, like, is the idea of marriage more important to me than my own personal happiness? I have my own opinions about that. Like I am actually, as a marriage coach, I'm actually not pro marriage. I am pro every individual being happy, living their best life. Now, with that said, in a marriage, it does include some level of compromise, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you want to do something, go do it. You don't always have to have your partner there with you. You could find other people to do it with you. Like, marriage is not about spending 100% of the time together. Actually, it's very healthy for you to have time on your own with your own people, because that's what brings newness into the relationship. That's what
Mm-hmm.
brings something fun to talk about. And then you're not kind of just like stuck day in, day out. Same thing every day, rinse and repeat, right? We need some freshness brought into the marriage. And that's a great way to do that. So don't feel like you have to put all this pressure. Okay, here's the thing. It just came to me. Your partner is not meant to be your everything. Okay? Like, they are not. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. You are not their everything. They are not your everything. Okay? So if they don't want to do something that you like, go do it with somebody else. Right? If like there are plenty of things you can do together and nurture the relationship. But you get to have your own hobbies. It's not like if you like knitting, they have to also like knitting and join the knitting circle with you. Like, come on.
Right. Yes. My husband golfs every Saturday. I am a huge fan of him doing that because I know he needs that time. He needs that. A stress relief for him. Plus he enjoys it. I've gone with him sometimes just to hang out, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I do it because I enjoy being with him. I enjoy spending time with him doing something that he loves. But I have no clue. I'm like, I don't know what iron. I don't even like. What are you asking me?
Yeah.
At that point, he's just like, never mind. I'll get it myself.
Can I just sit in the cart?
In the car. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm literally here as just like, I'm just your trophy wife. Like, come on. Like, I am just along for the fun and the cart girl who brings me drinks. So
There you go.
that's the only thing I'm here for, and maybe to get some steps in. But I do enjoy it, and I don't go with him, that often, maybe a few times a year. But still, those times are fun, and we want to support each other in that. And then I think, similarly, there are things that I have hobbying. My husband, I love networking. We were actually talking about this before we hit record, but I enjoy networking. I mean, I don't enjoy it like that much, but I do enjoy meeting new people. I love striking up conversations with random strangers, just getting to know them. That's like hell on earth for my husband. He like has his people. I'm not saying that he does it. He absolutely does it. But to like actively go out and do it outside of his work industry, I think just would kill all of his like joy and enthusiasm for life. He'd be
Totally.
like,
My husband's the same.
yeah, he'd be
He's like
"You're
allergic to
insane."
talking to people.
Yeah.
If he
And
has to like order food at a restaurant, like over the phone, he's like, you do it. Like, even something simple as that. He's like, can you do it? I don't want to. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't need to.
And he does, like, he will do that. Actually, he will order for all of us, which is, I'm like, yes, thank you.
Awesome.
But I think it's just more that's not, that like sucks the joy out of his life,
Yeah.
is like going and like making small talk with people because I just don't, he's just, like he always says, like his friend card is full, like he's got enough friends in his life. He's,
Sure.
he's like, I'm not really like, I'm happy. He's like, I'm content. I'm happy. I play my golf. I do my stuff. Like, I don't want to speak for him, but like, he's a really great guy. I'm just saying that it's just, we just have different interests. Like for me, I come alive when I'm in a group of people that I don't know. It's almost like my version of Tetris. Like where can I like,
You're extroverted.
Yes. And he is much more reserved than I am, which is why we go together very well. But when he gets around, the people that he's very comfortable with, that he has grown and built relationships with over time, because my husband really is truly like, I love deep connection as well, but I think it is one of his core value sets. It's one of mine too, in the sense that I really truly want to get to understand people and like know them. But I also am totally fine like having that surface level conversation with someone like, oh my gosh, like you like that too. I love that as well. Like that's amazing. And that's just not his cup of tea. So, but that's why we go well together.
Yeah, and it's nice to leverage each other's strengths, right? Because there's value in you being extroverted and there's value in him being introverted, right? And I think with the vision, we have to honor that. That's why, like, I have actually a free masterclass that teaches you how to do this, and the importance of having this conversation, right? You do it and he does it. And then you
Mm,
guys come together and talk about it, right? So it very much is supposed to honor your individual paths. And then you kind of like figure out where does it converge. And then let's spend some more time expanding on that while also honoring, okay, well, we each need our own time. So what does that look like in the grand scheme of things with our family, right? Like how can we support each
mhm,
other? Like how you support your husband to go golfing. I'm sure he supports you to go off and, go to these events and speak and, do your thing.
mhm.
It all goes hand in hand.
It does. And it has to be that, to me, is that true partnership
Mm-hmm.
where you are, in it together. And, we're not both all operating at 100% all of the time either with our crazy schedules and everything. And I think there are times when we just pick up on those cues. And as long as we've been together, it's like, I know when he needs extra help and when he just needs me to be a little bit more patient with him and vice versa. And I think that was all part of us building out this vision consistently every year, outlining and understanding, okay, what are some goals that we want to achieve with the family? What's our summer bucket list going to look like when it gets to, May, June, and the kids are out of school? What are our like crazier, busier times of year? When do we want to retire?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want to retire? I mean, like those are the questions we're asking ourselves now. And I can honestly say that I don't think we really thought about it. We did passively, or we'd throw out like, "Oh, let's move to Hawaii when we get older," not really understanding what that looks like or what that even means.
Yeah.
Just kind of throwing things out there. But now that we're inching up towards, that expiration date, you start to think about those things in more real time and trying to understand, well, how do we bring this to fruition? Then if we have this goal, then what does this actually look like? So
Yeah.
what are those conversations like as things kind of progress with the couples that you work with? What does some of those like conversations look like when two people are coming together and maybe have never even discussed these things?
Yeah, I think it really is like an exploration. Wow. It really is an explorative process of you first like giving yourself permission to be able to like dream up and actually put pen to paper on, okay, this is actually what I want, right? I think that's like a really, really big piece that a lot of us, especially as women, don't give ourselves permission to do. We're like, oh, things are fine. I have so much to be grateful for. Okay, well, you can feel grateful and want more. It's okay. It
Yes.
doesn't mean that you're ungrateful, right? It just means that you have goals and aspirations. That is a good thing to have. It's good to have direction in your life. And then, kind of like figure out, okay, well, how does this look like? Can we get creative in being able to accommodate both what you want and what I want? Can we get creative out, oh, maybe it's a new solution that we both didn't see, but it actually works for both of us, right? It becomes this collaborative process where you're brainstorming with each other rather than like, well, I want to live by the mountains and you want to live by the water. There are places that have both, right? Like
Mm,
within like an hour drive, like that's what I love about being in California. We have all these like microclimates that we can like quickly
mm,
get to.
you really
But
do. Yeah. It's a fantastic state. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm biased, but yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, it's all about being open minded and figuring out how can we make this work for us, or maybe it's like, okay, well, how about while we raise kids, we live in this place because they have a better school district, and then when we retire, then we can have our time in that space, right? There's so much flexibility and room for you to be able to honor both of your desires. It just like take the time to have the conversation, right? This is
Mhm.
the one conversation you don't want to skimp on, the one conversation you don't want to just like, okay, well, let's just like figure it out later, and then you don't have it, right? And then that's where all those like little
Mhm.
baby or maybe big arguments come up, and you're like, this totally could have been prevented because we weren't proactive about it, right? We're just having it when it comes up. And what happens when that happens? Your emotions are heightened and it's just like an ugly situation. But if you're able to have this type of conversation when nothing's going on, right? Everything's calm, cool, collected. And it's more of like this, like, it's like attending your own marriage workshop, but in your own home or wherever you want to have this fun conversation. You can turn it into a date. You can go to Starbucks or wherever and really like, okay, what do we want to do? It's like, it's meant to be something exciting to work towards, not like, oh gosh, I'm afraid to hear your answer. It's like, well, what if the answers are the same? How
Mm.
good would that feel that, like, oh, I can actually share with you, this is what I want because you also want that? Oh my gosh. Like, it's like, what's that movie? Is it Step Brothers? Like, did we just become best friends? It's
Yes.
like that.
Yes, yes, yes. I actually was thinking earlier, the movie The Breakup popped into my head when you were
Mm,
talking about the lack of communication and not like saying things and assuming that like your partner's going to know. And yeah, I was thinking about that because I'm like, oh my goodness. I think it was around the part that you were talking because you said something that really has stuck with me throughout our entire conversation because you said, allow that curiosity to provide you clarity.
mm-hmm.
And oh my goodness, that really resonates with me when it comes to just not even just my marriage, but just my relationships, my friendships, my relationships with my children, because I sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get information out of them. So the more that I can be
Yes.
curious about what it is they like, they want, they dislike, that they're working towards, and just ask those questions, it's going to provide me a clearer line of understanding to what it is they're working towards. So I really appreciate you sharing that. But you're right, because the scene that popped into my head was when they're arguing and he's like, but I don't want to do the dishes. And she's like, but I want you to do the dishes. He's like, okay, so you want me to do the dishes? She's like, well, I want you to want to do the dishes. And it's
Yeah.
like, but he's like, but I'm never going to want to do the dishes. Like, I'm never
Yes.
going to want to do that crap, So why are you even like why are you're setting yourself up for failure right there already and
Yes.
disappointment, because I'm never going to want to do that. I will do
Right.
it lovingly if you ask me to, but like, it's never going
Right.
to be something I'm going to walk over there and do. And those are the things that hilariously, I think, become just those small things that build over time when that lack of vision or lack of, communication, which feel are both interchangeable in this conversation,
Yeah.
don't happen. When we're not consistently sharing, this is what's going on. We plan weekly as a family. We know where everyone's going to be, who's picking them up, dropping them off, who's taking, someone to the airport, who's picking them up, or are they Ubering home? What do we have on the docket for the weekend? There's just a lot that happens in our lives that we have to communicate, but we also have to continue sharing what that vision looks like. And sometimes the
Yeah.
vision is just making it from week to week.
Totally. And even that you have a lot of power over, right? Like, if you know you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
a busy day, you know how you're going to feel. So how
Mm-hmm.
can you set yourself up for success? So, like, your vision can be as granular as week to week. Like, for us, I found myself like really recognizing that on our busy days, which is like when the kids have jujitsu, I'm like toast, right? But it's important for me to cook dinner for my kids and my family, my husband. And so I was putting all this like unnecessary pressure on myself to like make these like elaborate meals because I'm also a foodie. So like, I don't like to eat the same things all the time. But then I had to really
Mm-hmm.
ask myself, I'm like, okay, what is more beneficial for us as a whole? For me to like get that fix of not eating the same thing again, or for dinner time to be simple, for us to actually be able
Mm-hmm.
to regenerate our energy to connect over dinner time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like unavailable, like nobody talks, stop doing this and da da da. Like, I want to be like, hey, what's going on, guys? Like, what was the best part of your day? What's something that you learned? What was hard? I want to have those like really deep conversations with them to really get some insight into how their day was, because we hardly see them now that they're in school. Like, we don't know what's going on. We're not the people that spend the most time with them anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so all we get is what they give us. And so if we can create an opportunity for them to shed some more light on what's going on, like, I'm going to want to do that. And so now on those days where they go to jujitsu, dinners are super easy, like frozen Costco meatballs in the oven with some noodles and pasta sauce. Boom. Like, that's it. And having that vision of like who I want to be as a mom, as a wife, really helped me get there, instead of like putting that pressure like, oh, well, my mom cooked like, things from scratch every day. And so that's the expectation for me. That's what it looks like to be a good mom. Well, to me, being a good mom means being present, and that we don't have to be on our A game every single freaking day.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge hurdle that a lot of people have to overcome in the goal setting space as well when it comes to creating that vision, is that perfection
Mm-hmm.
versus the progress. Just are you making a little progress? I'm not asking you to be perfect.
Yeah.
And to your point, and women, we do it to ourselves so often. We're so good at
Mm-hmm.
doing that to ourselves, saying and putting this pressure that like no one else really, I mean, society, whatever, social media, whatnot, but when you're in the comfort of your home, do what you got to do. Like no one is watching you saying you didn't, make a perfect meal. And then when you do make a perfect meal, if you want to snap a picture of that and put it on Instagram, then go do it to make yourself feel better. But who cares? Like
Yes.
your kids are fed. At the end of the day, they're
Mm-hmm.
fed. And you said it best, you're choosing presence and being there for them, to ask those questions, to lean into their day, to understand what they're going through. And if allowing you to be able to do that means the Costco meal, which we've already discovered our shared love of Costco. I'm obsessed with Costco. But not in the way that I think most people think. It is an exclusive clothing membership.
That's right.
We pay the big bucks for the Costco clothes. Both Michelle and I do. Now we're going to be forced to start this Costco page, this shared Costco page where we share all of our amazing finds. So
Yeah, I mean, sometimes our meals look like our kids having cereal and us eating leftovers. I mean, if that's what you got to do to feel like your battery is going to be recharged, then go do it. Like it's not like they're having cereal every freaking day, right?
right,
Like, and
right,
plus to them, they're like, "Ooh, we get to have cereal. You're the best parents ever."
right. Breakfast for dinner. This is so cool. How innovative.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
So,
reinventing things. Yes.
let yourself be human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let yourself make life easier, however it looks like for you. You don't have to measure up to this like insane, unsustainable vision that you have of how life works. Like you get to decide, you get to pivot when you feel like it serves you best, and just, take care of you.
Mm-hmm. You said it best earlier. You said what works for you. You got to find what works for you. And I'm a firm believer of that. In every aspect of our life, we have to find what works best for us, because that's when we're going to get the best results. When we find what works for us, we're more engaged. We're more open, we are more willing. We push through our fears easier because we have found what works for us. And that honestly applies to so much of our life, what we're passionate about, what, the charitable causes that we want to become involved in. When we find something that truly aligns with who we are in our core and our spirit, then it makes everything we do from there so much more intentional and more meaningful. And in a relationship, especially in marriage and in relationships, they're already complex because, as you mentioned earlier, we are dynamic individuals. We're
Mm-hmm.
human. So that in and of itself brings about a unique set of individual characteristics and upbringing, nature versus nurture, environmental, tendencies or differences. I mean, cultural differences. I mean, that's the other, I mean, we can have a whole other podcast episode on just cultural differences and kind of defining
Mm-hmm.
what that vision looks like. Do you want your child learning multiple languages? Do you want them, when religion is involved, like what do all of these questions look like? Do you want to raise them, one religion? How do those come together? I mean, I know what worked for my husband and I, but it's going to look different for everyone, and you've got to find out and figure out what works best for you.
Could not agree more.
I took your words. It was, yes, just so impactful, so powerful. Okay, so switching, pivoting to my last question. Talk to us about your course, because I know that you help couples get set up for success so they can create this vision and like start themselves on the path to success from the get go.
Yeah, so this is actually a really awesome free masterclass, which is titled The Number One Conversation Married Couples Need to Have, but aren't. So I will share the link, but it's a really quick, easy exercise where you get to go through what we just talked about on this podcast episode. I walk you through why it's important to have this conversation, what it can lead to, as well as you get to like do this fun visualization exercise with me. And you get a workbook where you can fill out your answers and really just compare like, okay, well, here's mine, here's yours, and facilitate that really powerful conversation between you and your spouse so that you can get on the same page, establish your goals, make it really clear, and figure out, okay, how do we do this? How do we make this work? What's it look like for us? And I'm really excited to share this because, again, like literally the most important conversation you should be having in your marriage. Everything else needs to come like next because this is what truly like sets the backbone of your marriage or the framework. And just go have it. Go check it out. I have nothing else to say. Just go do it.
Yes. Yes. That's a perfect do the dang goal to create for other people. Just go do it. Just go do it. Which leads me to my question for you. What is your do the dang goal?
Oh, I love this. So my goal is to continue. So this year, actually, I'm finally making it a priority to take care of my health. And so, fun fact about me is what kicked me off into this personal development journey is actually a breakup and diving into yoga and falling in love with it so much that I actually became certified as a yoga instructor. This was many, many years ago, like probably 10 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, but I let myself lose myself in motherhood. And, I prioritize family ahead of myself. And I'm proud to say I am now back to consistently practicing it. And it has been such a game changer for my mental health, my physical health. I'm noticing I'm more motivated and inspired in my business. I feel more present with my family. I just feel better overall. And so that is my goal, is to continue like, sticking with taking care of my health and really just making sure that I'm here for as long as I possibly can be for my marriage and for my kids and my business. To be honest, I love my business. I love coaching.
I can tell it comes through in just how passionate you are about discussing this, because we've had several conversations by this point of just what it is that we do and how much we want to help people, and that always comes through and is very present in our conversations, just how much this work is so meaningful to you. And that's why I encourage everyone that's listening, even if you've been married for 50 years, even if you just met some guy that you think you might like and could see a future with, go check out Michelle's course, The Number One Conversation Couples Need to Have But Aren't. It is so vital, so crucial, just like you would plan out the vision for your life individually to meet that partner, because I have worked with several women and men who have said one of their goals was to meet their life partner, and they're actively working on that. It was a part of their vision board, because we have those goals for ourselves. We want to find someone who complements us, who we can spend our time in our life with, build a life with, build a family with, or whatever, build a business with, etc. You name it. So just like we would spend the amount of time building that out, getting to finding that person, getting to that point, the work doesn't just end because we found the person. We actually have to dig in more, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Even to that point where you say I do, like a lot of us are like, oh, that's the buildup. That's the best day of my life. It's not. It's not meant to be. That is just the start of another chapter and an end of another, right? And so with this like vision exercise, you're able to actually build that hope back up into, okay, well, what's next? Right? There's always a what's next. And I have worked with one of my clients is actually a grandma. She's got like a grown child who's like probably my age or a little younger who has a child. And so it literally is never too late. And she's even been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We've already celebrated, our 40th or whatever anniversary. And I'm already seeing changes just from our work together. So it's like really cool to be like, yeah, it's literally never too late. And look at her. Like she's making it happen.
I love that. That's awesome. And you just exactly what we were saying earlier. It's never too late. I mean, like, no matter how old you are, like, you can absolutely have this vision. I love, love, love that. I think that's the perfect way to kind of wrap things up and for you to be able to share where people can find you, because no matter what age you are, no matter where or what
Yeah.
stage or phase or age of life you are, you need to find Michelle. You need to connect with her. You need to go through this course and understand how your relationship can improve and you can create that vision with your partner. So where can people find you?
Yeah. So since you're listening to this, go hop on over to my podcast. It's called the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. And I also love to hang out in my Facebook group. That's a private group for married moms who want to have that marriage where there's open communication and you know how to get through things as a team and be able to connect. And I'm also on Instagram under Michelle Purta Coaching. Wherever you find me, I'd be happy to connect with you. Say hi, let me know what you loved most about this episode. And yeah, I'd like to get to know you.
Oh, fantastic. Yes. I am so thankful that we took the time today to chat with you, to learn a little bit more about this conversation that is so necessary and imperative and important for couples to have. And I am so excited for couples to reach out to you and the ones that you are working with, because you're just helping people with such a crucial conversation. And I think that we're going to start to see relationships thriving a lot more when we do have these conversations. So thank you so much for helping couples create the vision for their life and setting them on that path, giving them the tools necessary, and so that they can then work with their families and kids when they have children and they can
Yeah.
do the same. And we start to grow generationally. We've got just better equipped couples to handle all of life's challenges, goals, everything together.
That's the goal. Thanks
Yes.
for having me.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.